She thought her dreams of walking again were over, until one kind-hearted mechanic in a small-town garage decided to fix her broken prosthetic leg. What happened next? Her very first step shocked everyone and changed her life forever. This is the story of hope, courage, and the power of human kindness. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get started! Mia sat on the edge of her small bed in a cramped apartment in Dayton, Ohio, staring blankly at her broken prosthetic leg. The accident had happened 2 years ago, and since then her life had been a series of adjustments, disappointments, and physical therapy sessions that never seemed to bring full recovery. Today, the prosthetic's foot had snapped in half while she tried to stand. The metal and plastic pieces lay on the floor like discarded toys. She felt a wave of helplessness wash over her. Money was tight, bills were mounting, and she didn't know how she would replace it. Her roommate, Sarah, peeked into the room. "Mia, are you okay?" she asked softly. Mia shook her head, unable to speak, pointing at the broken prosthetic. Sarah frowned, understanding immediately. "I know it's hard, but we'll figure something out," she said, sitting beside her. But Mia could see the worry in her friend's eyes. Even Sarah didn't have enough to cover the cost of a new prosthetic. Mia's frustration boiled over into tears, not just because of the broken leg, but because of everything it represented. Dependence, limitation, and dreams she felt slipping away. Across town, in a small, dimly lit garage cluttered with tools, 28-year-old Jake wiped grease off his hands. He was a mechanic who had learned early on that fixing broken things often felt better than fixing his own life. His shop was modest, the walls lined with worn tools, spare tires, and shelves of parts he had scavenged or bought second-hand. Business was slow most days, but he took pride in his work. When he wasn't fixing cars, he repaired whatever people brought him, from broken bicycles to lawnmowers. Tonight, he would take on something far more meaningful than any engine. Jake had heard about Mia through a local community group. Her struggle had touched him immediately. He remembered reading her post about the broken prosthetic, the fear in her words, and how helpless she felt. He had never met her, but something about the story pulled at him. He decided that evening to offer his help. It wasn't about money or recognition. It was about doing something right. He wanted to see if he could use his hands and ingenuity to change someone's life, even if just a little. The next morning, Mia hesitated at the garage door. The smell of oil and motor grease hit her, unfamiliar and slightly intimidating. Jake greeted her with a warm smile. "Don't worry, we'll see what we can do," he said gently, gesturing toward a workbench stacked with tools. Mia handed him the broken prosthetic. I don't know if it can be fixed," she admitted, her voice small. Jake examined it carefully, turning it over, inspecting the joints, the screws, and the worn areas. He nodded thoughtfully. "It's going to take some work, but I think we can make it functional again." Hours passed as Jake worked, the garage filled with the soft hum of machinery and the occasional clank of metal. Mia watched, fascinated and anxious, as he improvised, taking pieces from old prosthetics, adjusting metal plates and smoothing rough edges. He explained each step patiently, showing her how the components would move together. Despite the improvisation, there was precision in every adjustment, a careful balance between creativity and engineering. Mia felt a mix of awe and hope. She realized that this man, a stranger, was giving her a chance to walk again, without expecting anything in return. As the afternoon light spilled through the garage windows, Jake tested the repaired prosthetic. He crouched beside Mia, guiding her carefully as she attempted to shift her weight onto it. Her heart raced, every step filled with uncertainty. She wobbled, almost falling, but Jake's hands were steady, his calm presence reassuring. "Take it slow," he encouraged. "You've got this." Slowly she balanced, then shifted slightly forward, testing the movement. A small smile broke across her face. The prosthetic held. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Enough to give her a glimmer of freedom, enough to make her believe again. During breaks, Mia and Jake talked, She shared stories of her life before the accident, her dreams, her frustrations. Jake spoke about his own struggles, the long hours, the late nights, the feeling of fixing things while life sometimes felt broken around him. They laughed at small jokes, bonded over shared experiences, and for the first time in a long while, Mia felt seen. The garage, with its worn tools and motor oil scent, became a place of hope. Every clank of metal, every adjustment of screws, felt like a step toward reclaiming a part of her life she had thought lost forever. As evening approached, Jake tightened the final screws, polished the metal, and tested the joints one last time. "I think we're ready for the real test," he said. Mia's stomach knotted with nerves, but she nodded. She slipped her leg into the prosthetic, feeling the weight, the balance, and the strange new possibility of movement. Jake stood beside her, steady and supportive. She took a tentative step forward, wobbling, then another. The garage seemed to hold its breath. Then a smile, tentative but real, spread across her face. She was walking. Tears filled Mia's eyes as she moved cautiously around the garage. I can walk," she whispered. Jake smiled, brushing off the praise, though his pride shone clearly in his eyes. "You did this," he said. "I just helped a little." Mia laughed softly through her tears. The prosthetic wasn't perfect, and the journey wasn't over, but for the first time in years, she felt in control. The hopelessness that had weighed on her for so long began to lift, replaced by cautious optimism and gratitude. That night, Mia left the garage with her repaired prosthetic, her steps growing more confident with each movement. Jake waved from the doorway, the glow of the garage light behind him, a silent witness to a small miracle. In that tiny Ohio town, two strangers had turned despair into hope. Mia's life wasn't fully healed, but a door had opened, and for the first time in a long while, she believed that maybe, just maybe, the impossible could happen. Mia woke the next morning with a strange mix of anticipation and fear. The repaired prosthetic leg lay neatly by her bed, gleaming slightly in the morning sunlight filtering through her apartment window. She could hear the faint hum of traffic outside, a reminder that the world was moving on while she had been trapped in a bubble of limitations. Today would be different. Her heart raced as she lifted the prosthetic, feeling the weight, the cold metal, the smooth adjustments Jake had made. Every detail of the repair reflected his care and precision. She wondered if it could really hold her. Dressing slowly, Mia felt the nerves coil tighter in her stomach. She had spent 2 years learning to accept her new normal, using crutches to move around, always aware of the fragility of her independence. Now this makeshift prosthetic carried the hope of walking again. She slipped it on carefully, feeling how it fitted snugly, surprisingly comfortable. The straps hugged her leg firmly, and the joint felt responsive, unlike the broken one. Standing up was nerve-wracking. She gripped a nearby chair, testing her balance. Her breaths came in shallow bursts as she focused entirely on trusting the leg and the man who had given her this chance. Jake arrived at the garage shortly after, bringing coffee and a reassuring smile. "Ready for your first real step?" he asked, setting the cup aside. Mia nodded, hesitant. The garage smelled of oil, metal, and warm sunlight streaming through the windows. It had become a sanctuary in a short span of time, a place where despair had transformed into possibility. Jake knelt beside her, placing his hands lightly on her waist. "I'll catch you if you fall. Just take it slow." The warmth in his voice calmed her racing mind, giving her a sense of security she hadn't felt in years. Her first step was tentative, shaky. The prosthetic held, slightly creaking under her weight, but functional. She froze for a moment, amazed that it didn't collapse. "You're doing it," Jake whispered encouragingly. She tried again, a little bolder, her foot moving forward, heel first, just like she had practiced in therapy. The neighbors peered curiously from the street outside the garage window, drawn by the soft sounds of movement and the faint murmurs of encouragement. Mia's pulse raced, a mixture of disbelief and exhilaration. This was real. She was walking again, something she hadn't dared to dream about in months. The second step came easier than the first, and Mia felt her confidence grow. She laughed nervously, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in a long time. "I can really walk," she exclaimed, looking at Jake, whose eyes shone with pride. He shrugged modestly. "I just made sure the leg was ready. You're the one doing the hard work." The garage filled with a sense of accomplishment, not just for the mechanical repair, but for the courage and perseverance it represented. For Mia, it wasn't just a leg. It was freedom, hope, and a reclaiming of her independence. As the minutes passed, Mia practiced shifting her weight, turning slightly, and walking short distances. Jake guided her patiently, correcting small misalignments, adjusting the foot angle, and offering tips for balance. Sweat formed on her forehead, but it was the sweat of effort and triumph, not frustration. Each successful step boosted her morale, and she began to imagine moving beyond the garage, walking down streets, entering stores, even returning to her favorite park. The thought was almost surreal. The world that had once seemed so restrictive now appeared navigable, all because of a broken prosthetic repaired with care and determination. Neighbors and passers-by began to stop outside, some clapping quietly, others gasping in disbelief. A woman walking her dog whispered, "Look at her go." Mia blushed but felt a strange pride swell inside her. She had been defined by her limitations for too long, and now, in these small strides, she was reclaiming her identity. Jake remained calm, guiding her through each step, his hands steady, his presence reassuring. They shared smiles, the kind that form quietly but carry immense gratitude. It was more than walking. It was a testament to human resilience and the unexpected kindness of strangers. After an hour of practice in the garage, Mia's confidence grew to the point where she wanted to step outside. The pavement outside seemed daunting at first, rougher and less forgiving than the smooth garage floor. Jake followed closely, holding her hand lightly. Each step onto the sidewalk was a thrill, a small victory. She felt the uneven concrete beneath, her prosthetic testing her balance and forcing her to focus entirely. Cars passed slowly, neighbors stared, and for the first time in years, Mia felt like she belonged in the world around her, moving with agency rather than being restricted by circumstance. By midday, Mia was walking longer distances with minimal support. The prosthetic held perfectly, and the initial creaks had settled into smooth movement. She began to laugh openly, the sound echoing in the quiet streets. Jake suggested small exercises, turns, stepping over low obstacles, navigating slight inclines, to prepare her for real-life situations. With each step, Mia's fear of falling diminished, replaced by the joy of movement. She began to imagine attending social events, going to work, even dancing someday. The repaired leg was no longer just a tool. It was a symbol of possibility, proof that even broken things could be restored. Exhausted but elated, Mia returned to the garage for a short rest. She leaned against the wall, breathing heavily, a smile plastered across her face. Jake handed her a bottle of water and simply said, "You did it. You're walking again." Mia's eyes filled with tears, not just from physical exertion, but from overwhelming gratitude. She had been given a second chance at mobility, independence, and hope. Her life was no longer confined to crutches and limitations. She realized that this moment would stay with her forever, a turning point where despair transformed into possibility. As the sun began to set over Dayton, the garage glowed with a golden light. Mia took one last set of steps before leaving for the day, her gait more confident, her spirit lifted. Jake smiled, watching her move freely, his hands ready to assist, but no longer needed. For Mia, each step was a reminder of the kindness of strangers, the power of perseverance, and the beauty of hope restored. Outside, the world awaited, full of opportunities she hadn't dared to imagine. And with her repaired leg, she was ready to face it all, one step at a time. Mia woke the next morning feeling an unfamiliar excitement bubbling in her chest. Her repaired prosthetic leg rested beside her bed, perfectly aligned and ready. Yesterday had been magical, but today promised even more. She could already feel the strength returning to her muscles, the confidence growing with each passing step. She carefully slipped it on, feeling the secure, fit and smooth movement. Jake had made small adjustments overnight, leaving the leg lighter and more comfortable. As she stood, the familiar tremor of nerves appeared, but she pushed it aside. Today, she would venture beyond the garage, beyond the comfort of safety. The streets of Dayton greeted her like an old friend. The pavement was uneven, littered with small stones and cracks, but Mia felt ready. Each step was deliberate, controlled, and full of newfound strength. Jake followed closely, guiding her with light touches when needed. Passers-by glanced at her with curiosity, some offering smiles and quiet encouragement. A young boy on his bicycle slowed to watch, whispering to his mother, "Wow, she's walking." Mia felt pride swell inside her. For the first time in years, she wasn't just moving, she was reclaiming her presence in the world. By midday, Mia had walked further than she ever imagined she could. She stopped by a small park, sunlight reflecting off the swings and benches. Children played nearby, laughing and chasing each other, and Mia felt a pang of longing. 2 years ago, she would have watched from the sidelines, trapped in frustration and immobility. Now, she approached the playground, testing her balance on small inclines and steps. Jake smiled, letting her take the lead, his hands hovering just in case. She laughed freely, the sound ringing out like music as the reality of her regained independence settled in. Word of her remarkable progress began to spread across the small town. Neighbors, previously unaware of her struggle, approached with congratulations and awe. A local reporter had even stopped by to capture the story, impressed by the determination and ingenuity behind her journey. Mia felt shy at first, but the joy of walking outweighed her discomfort. She spoke briefly about Jake, praising his skill and selflessness. For her, this wasn't just a story about a prosthetic, it was about the kindness of strangers, the power of perseverance, and the hope that could exist even in the darkest times. As days turned into weeks, Mia continued to practice diligently. She navigated grocery stores, sidewalks, and small hills, learning the subtle adjustments required for everyday life. Each successful trip built her confidence, and each stumble, though rare, reinforced her resilience. Jake remained a steady presence, offering guidance, encouragement, and small tweaks to the prosthetic when needed. Their bond deepened beyond mere mechanic and client. They shared stories, laughter, and a mutual understanding that transcended circumstance. The community watched in amazement, inspired by a young woman's determination and a humble mechanic's generosity. One afternoon, Mia decided to take her repaired leg on a small adventure. She walked to her favorite cafe downtown, savoring the smell of freshly baked pastries and coffee. The barista greeted her warmly, surprised and delighted by her mobility. Mia navigated the tables, her steps confident, her posture proud. She realized how much she had missed these simple interactions, the ordinary movements that most people take for granted. Every step was a reminder of the transformation she had undergone, the journey from helplessness to empowerment. For Mia, the world had become accessible again, and she was eager to embrace it fully. Jake joined her at the cafe, watching with pride as she navigated the small space independently. They shared coffee, laughter, and stories of the past weeks. Mia reflected on how a simple act of kindness had changed her life so profoundly. She no longer saw herself as limited by circumstance, but as someone capable of reclaiming agency, independence, and joy. The repaired prosthetic leg was more than a device. It was a symbol of possibility, resilience, and the unexpected ways lives can intersect for good. Jake's skill had restored mobility, but his compassion had restored hope. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Mia decided to explore a nearby park trail. The path was rougher, winding through trees and uneven terrain. Each step required focus, balance, and trust in her leg. She moved slowly at first, but gradually her confidence grew. Birds chirped overhead, leaves rustled in the breeze, and the smell of fresh earth filled the air. Mia smiled, exhilarated by the freedom of movement she had once taken for granted. She realized that life had many paths, and with her repaired leg, she could navigate them all. Her journey had become more than walking. It was rediscovery. Over the next few weeks, Mia's story inspired others in Dayton and beyond. Local news outlets shared her journey, highlighting the courage, perseverance, and unexpected kindness that had made it possible. Friends, neighbors, and strangers reached out with congratulations and encouragement. Some even sought Jake's help for their own mechanical or mobility needs. Mia felt humbled and grateful, realizing that her struggle and triumph had resonated widely. The repaired leg had not only restored her physical mobility, but had also given her a renewed sense of purpose, hope, and connection with the community around her. One evening, Mia returned to the garage to thank Jake properly. "I don't even know how to describe what this means," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Jake shrugged, smiling. "You did all the hard work. I just helped a little." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "It's more than a little. You gave me my life back." The two shared a quiet moment of mutual respect and gratitude. Outside, the sun cast long shadows over the garage, a symbol of endings and beginnings, of a life once broken and now restored. Mia's journey was far from over, but she had taken the most important steps, reclaiming mobility, independence, and hope. Every stride, whether in the garage, on city streets, or along park trails, reminded her of the power of human connection, resilience, and compassion. Jake had repaired more than a prosthetic leg. He had helped her reclaim her life, and as she looked toward the future, Mia knew that with each step she would continue to inspire, grow, and embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. Walking again wasn't the end, it was the start of a beautiful new chapter.